Welcome everyone to our Arts Academy podcast. I know it's weird to start doing these that we're not really in school, but we figured that we had a few questions before the end of the school year, and Dr. Giammarella was good enough to pop on here to answer any of those questions that we've been getting through email. Where do we want to start, Mr. Ricciardi? You want to start with the student fee? I think is the thing that we've had the most questions about, like how it's going to work and how this came up. And
yeah, I think the question that we should start with for Dr. G is the student fee for the freshman, incoming freshman, is $600. Can you give the students a breakdown of that $600 and what that $600 for each of the incoming freshmen is used for?
Okay, sure. We'll start with the easy stuff. $50 goes into the class account, the scholarship account. $100 goes into testing fees, and I don't have the sheet of paper in front of me. Then there's the Chromebook that they pay for, and there's also the Chromebook warranty for 4 years.
So that brings us about $500, I believe. And then isn't there a scholarship? Is there still a scholarship fund also?
And the scholarship fund, yes.
Okay.
Scholarship fund also. Thank you. Yes.
So that's what the $600 that all the students pay coming into high tech pays for. What we talked about last week on last week's episode was that we have a couple of years in a row with budget cuts or a flat budget. It's not so much a budget cuts, but our budget has been flat, which has caused us to have to cut because of increased costs. And next year, it could get a little bit worse, which is why we talked about instilling this $350 fee, which will go directly to the students. And then could you break down what that $350 fee for rising sophomores, juniors, and seniors would go towards paying?
Okay, first of all, what you said was very accurate regarding budget cuts or the flatness of the state's payout to the schools. This year, it's compounded because of the pandemic. The state isn't collecting enough tax revenues or the tax revenues that they plan to be collecting. And the annual budget, which normally starts July 1st, will not start until possibly September 1st. So therein lies a compounded problem. We don't know how much money we're going to have in the budget, and therefore the suggestion at a principals meeting was that we assess each family $350 or each student $350. The $350 very simply goes toward the maintenance of the extracurricular activities that we have. Now, for those of you the students who remember, I know the teachers will remember quite well, we had to cut back on extracurricular payments this year. What I'm trying to do is reinstate those payments because some of the teachers who worked very hard all year received virtually nothing for the time that they spent with the students after school. The French club, the German club, the different competitions were cut back. So as a result, teachers were doing what they were doing with the students after school for less than what they were doing it the year before. The fee is to help reinstate those stipends, if you will, for the teachers and maintain the LEAP programs that we have after school, as well as transportation.
Now, in the past, I believe was how Explore 2000, Explore, they already had a student fee?
Explore 2000 had a $350 fee every year that they were in the middle school.
for all three grades. And then next year would be the first year that County Prep and High Tech would ask for this $350 fee. Both schools are doing the same thing.
That is correct.
For rising sophomores, juniors, and seniors.
Right. The unfortunately, desperate times required desperate measures. The fee was a desperate attempt on our part to maintain the extracurricular activities that we've had in the past at reasonable stipends for the teachers that were participating in the program. Unfortunately, we have desperate times on the health and economic end of things, and there are a lot of parents that are out of work. There are a lot of parents who were sick because of COVID, and as a result, it's creating even more of a burden. And I understand that the principal in County Prep understands it. We all understand it. So, I'm not going to make a statement, obviously, that we're going to do away with it, but we do realize that there is an issue with that fee.
So to date, let's say that we have, I know that there are some students who have already sent in the fee, I'm assuming.
Correct.
And then there are some students who are concerned, and their families that are concerned about the fee.
Right.
What are the families' options if financially at home they have issues? Should they reach out to guidance counselors? Should they reach out to supervisors? Is there a process for them to communicate the financial hardships?
Ms. Mendola and I are trying to put together a letter to send out. And it's very difficult because the letter has to address exactly what you have addressed. Is there a way to ease the pain, so to speak? Can there be a payment plan? If there is a payment plan, how do we go about collecting the money on a payment plan? Who tracks it? So these are things that we're trying to put together. I know, well, I shouldn't say I know, I believe that we can accept partial payments of the fee. Again, between now and September, depending upon how much is collected, will really dictate what extracurricular activities and after-school activities that we will be able to run.
Mr. Gongora, I think those are all the questions that I got to me. I don't know, Ms. Alvarez, Mr. Gongora, Mr. Buccio, if you guys have any questions that maybe should also be addressed that came directly to you.
Not about that fee. I have underclassmen that want to know about yearbooks. If they ordered yearbooks, when would they be getting yearbooks?
That's a good question, Joe.
Okay. We have the yearbooks. The yearbooks were delivered. We have the yearbooks in our file room in the high school office. When we come back from break in July, an email will be going out stating that you can come and purchase the yearbook, purchase some yearbooks. We do have extras, or pick up the yearbooks that you have already paid for. So we do have them. We didn't forget about the kids. And obviously, we need to make sure that we get the yearbooks taken care of. There's also an issue with lockers. There's also an issue with book returns. They'll all be handled in July. The lockers will be emptied, very similar to the way we emptied the senior lockers. And there'll be specific days that the underclassmen could come in to pick up their belongings.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay.
Just off the top of your head, Joe, do you remember some of the programs that were canceled, especially from the Arts Academy, that if everybody chips in for this fee, that we could now run again for the next school year?
Well, if you look at, in general, LEAP classes, the 4-credit classes that we run would more than likely be one of the considerations to be canceled. The additional hours for performances would be canceled. My commitment to the Arts Academy, as well as the entire school, is that if we have to cut extracurricular activities or LEAP activities, it's going to be important. And my commitment to the students and to the parents is that we will not give up on the remediation classes. I think with the way the pandemic ran, we have students who will definitely need remediation after school. I will not penalize the students because of a financial issue. That I will be able to commit to. But if you want me to be specific as to what programs may be canceled, it's all going to depend upon how much participation each program had this year. So I'm not going to say I'm going to cut all the world language clubs first. You know, I'll ask the teachers who ran it last year, what was your weekly participation? What was your monthly participation? And then work it from there. You know, and believe me, I'm not going to be the only one to make that decision. I'm going to involve the teachers in charge. I'll also involve the supervisors and a guidance counselor from each area.
Mr. Bush, did you have any questions?
No, I was answering. I got an email about lockers, and then I got an email about when the summer work will be.
That's the only thing that I know is that summer readings for the language arts department, I believe, was sent out. That's the only summer homework that I know of. I know nothing was sent out for any of the AP courses at this point. And whether or not anything goes out, we're still in the process of scheduling, and those students that passed the diagnostics or got into a particular course will have to wait until the teachers get that information out. That's not something that we generate from the high school office.
And for all students and parents, Governor Murphy is supposed to make an announcement tomorrow about school reentry, and then we have a meeting scheduled next week as a follow-up to obviously his guidelines and recommendations. Dr. Giammarella, do you want to say anything about that? Is there anything that maybe the parents and students could consider at this point before really knowing what Governor Murphy is going to say?
Well, again, this entire pandemic and the governor's attempt to open the economy back up safely is exactly what we've been discussing. Not officially, obviously. But I can assure you that the district will follow whatever guidelines the governor sets out. The district will also ensure that the students and staff are safe when they enter the building. What that will entail, obviously, a lot has to do with what the governor says tomorrow. But I'm sure that we'll have to social distance in some way, shape, or form. I'm sure masks will become part of the dress code, if you will. Taking temperatures supposedly as students enter the building is probably going to be one of the biggest issues that we have. One of the biggest issues that we have. Transportation. How do we get students to the building? And obviously that is going to take a lot of coordination from transportation, a lot of coordination from the nurse's office. Lunches. How do you socially distance when you have 400 students having lunch at the same time? So these are things that we have to look at. I know a superintendent wrote an article for one of the educational magazines. He came up with 91 questions that had to be answered before a school could safely open up. Now, whether it's 91 or 86 or 122, there are questions that we have to address to make sure our students and our staff remain safe. And obviously that's going to be a a big part of the discussion.
Yeah, and any parents or students could Google search that article. It was 91 questions to school if they want to see what that article was about. But yeah, it did get sent around, and it's a lot to think about. Definitely,
I'll put the link in the comments.
There we go. Do you guys have any other questions? Dr. Giammarella has been, gracious with his time. But if you guys don't have anything else, we'll let him go and maybe just talk about some other art stuff. Good to go.
Good.
Dr. G, we appreciate it.
Okay,
Thank you.
No problem. No, thank you. I'll be away next week, and obviously we'll close the week after. But if any questions come up that we haven't addressed that you can't respond to, please feel free to forward them to me.
Perfect. And then we could even address it on the podcast after that.
Very good.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot, guys. Have a nice week and enjoy the break.
You too.
You too.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.